Hello Booktube. Today I'm going to be giving you the first part of my review of Octopussy and the Living Daylights by Ian Fleming, which was published in 1966 and is the 14th of the original James Bond books. I read this as a reread I'm doing of those books, which consists of 12 novels and 2 collections of short stories, of which this is the second collection. As with my review of the first collection, for your eyes only, I'm going to be reviewing this collection story by story, and in today's review, in today's video, I'm going to be reviewing the title story, Octopussy. Now, I should just say that though it only says Octopussy on the title here, on the front cover here, this collection is called Octopussy and the Living Daylights. This was published in the 1980s, and it also doesn't have the full story which is in more modern editions of the collection, 007 in New York. However, I found somewhere that I can read that, and so you'll get a review of that in the next coming days. Octopussy opens in Jamaica, where we see retired Royal Marine officer Major Dexter Smythe swimming in the ocean outside his house on the north shore of Jamaica. He is interacting with the local wildlife and is looking for a scorpion fish which he can feed to the local resident octopus, which Smythe has nicknamed Octopussy. He's doing this because the local naturalist institute wants to know if the octopus will be affected by eating the scorpionfish, because the scorpionfish is poisonous. And so Smiley is looking for the scorpionfish to feed to Octopussy and then see what the reaction will be. Whilst swimming and looking for the scorpionfish, Smiley thinks back about what happened earlier in the day when he was visited by James Bond. Bond was inquiring about Smiley's wartime activities, and during the course of the story you discover that Smythe was involved with a specialised unit that entered Germany near the end of the war, called the Miscellaneous Objectives Bureau, which was looking to pick up German intelligence officers and scientists and technology before the Soviets could get to them. This was an Anglo-American organisation, and Smythe was a senior officer in it. He had been involved in various intelligence operations during the earlier on in the war, and right near the end of the war, he was in Austria doing operations for the Miscellaneous Objectives Bureau, when he discovered in some Nazi files the location of some hidden Nazi gold. He keeps this to himself, takes some leave, and finds the gold with the help of a guide called Oberhauser, who Smythe kills and hides at the bottom of a glacier. Then Smythe stays in the army for a year or two after the war. For about a year after the war, and he's able to sort of pull strings to get him back to Germany, and then he's able to smuggle the gold out of Germany back to the UK. He then marries a woman who was one of the women who was his girlfriend during the war, and then he leaves the army, leaves the Royal Marines, and goes to live off in Jamaica. In Jamaica, he uses a couple of local Chinese merchants with connections to international gold smuggling, called the Fu Brothers, to smuggle the gold out, and he gets about $90,000 for the gold, which is more than he thought he would, because he thought the gold was only going to be worth the equivalent of about $20,000. So he's very happy with that, and that enables him and his wife to live quite comfortably on it. However, they sort of fall out. He becomes a heavy drinker, she commits suicide, and he also suffers a heart attack, and he actually suffers 2 heart attacks in the time between he arrives in Jamaica and Bond's arriving this takes place. I think the story takes place in the mid to late 50s, I would think. Then Bond appears, and Bond sort of confronts Smythe with this and then leaves him alone. Smythe thinks about what to do and finally decides he's just going to confess. So he goes and tells Bond this, and Smythe asks Bond how they found out, and he said that earlier that spring the snow had defrosted and Oberhauser's body was found with all these papers on him, and he was identified. And then Smythe also asks why Bond in particular was given the job. Bond says partially it was because it's just a part of his duties, but also it was because Oberhaus was a friend of his. He had taught Bond to ski before the Second World War. Then Bond leaves Smythe, telling him that in a couple of weeks' time an official will be sent from London to put him under arrest. And then Bond leaves. Smythe takes this as Bond giving Smythe the chance to do the honourable thing and take his own life to tidy things up. But Smythe decides he's not going to do that. He's going to actually stand and he's going to go to take things through the legal process and defend himself. And then the story sort of flips back to Smythe searching for the scorpionfish. He does find the scorpionfish after a bit of a battle. He catches it, and then he takes it back. He comes back up to the surface, and as he's resting after the fight with the scorpionfish, he notices that he's feeling numb in his stomach, and he notices that during the fight, unknown to him, the scorpionfish had got him with his poisoned fins, and he was slowly dying from the poison. He's now slowly dying from the poison. Smythe decides that his last act is going to be to get the scorpionfish to Octopussy, which he does. However, when he gives it to Octopussy, Octopussy goes for Smythe's arm and drags him under the water and kills him. It is subsequently reported in London that it was death by misadventure, but Bond personally thinks it's an act of suicide, and that's where the story ends. Again, as with the Bond short stories, this Octopussy is really good. It's a nice, interesting sort of look back to the Second World War, which is sort of constantly referenced throughout the books, particularly in the later books. I find where Bond himself looks back to the Second World War as a place that at a time of enjoyment. It was he had a good war, and Smythe had a good war. This also seems to be quite a somewhat autobiographical work for Ian Fleming, because of course the character of Smythe suffers from 2 heart attacks. Fleming during the Second World War was involved in intelligence, and interestingly, I think the Miscellaneous Objectives Bureau is Fleming drawing directly from his wartime experience, because at the time of the G-Day landings, Fleming proposed a intelligence force called T-Force, which is an Anglo-American group that will go into Germany and collect scientists, intelligence officers, technology before the Soviets can get hold of them. And so it does seem that Fleming is putting that into his work as a fictional unit, because I don't think the stuff about T-Force was declassified until the 1990s. There is a very good book about it. I can't remember it now, but I'll look for it. I'll leave the title and the author in the description. That's well worth a read. And so you've got nice sort of elements of Fleming's own life being put into this, and obviously being in Jamaica, you've got sort of Fleming's loving description of the landscape, elements of landscape, of the underwater scene and the wildlife, and overall, like with Fleming's other short stories, as I said before, really good. I've got no problem with it whatsoever. And it's another example of Fleming doing something different, as he seemed to be doing, not just with the short stories, but with the novels, starting, I think, with Primrose with Love, where he tried each story to do something slightly different. And this is another one, like with The Spy Who Loved Me, where you're seeing the story from somebody else's perspective other than Bond's. And that's nice. And Dexter Smythe is an interesting character. He's a man you can sympathise with, whilst also recognising that he is a villain. He murdered Oberhauser, and then he contributed through his conduct, sort of distancing himself distant himself from his wife that ultimately led to her attempting to take her own life, and that sort of being successful with an overdose of sleeping pills. And so, even though in this short story, Fleming is able to get that over quite well, and he's also in the scene in the flashback to the Second World War where Smythe and Oberhauser are going up the mountain. That's very well described. It's very well written. Again, that seems to me to be building in part on the sort of stuff that Fleming described in On a Majesty's Secret Service, which of course is set in Switzerland. In fact, the area that Oberhauser is from and where Smythe finds the gold is the area in Austria where Tracy Bond is murdered at the end of On a Majesty's Secret Service. So I think this story was actually written in 1963. So Fleming might have been writing this off the back immediately after or immediately before On a Majesty's Secret Service. So I think you can see. I sort of see the connection in terms of using the description of landscapes in that part of the story. But I say overall, really enjoyed it, and you'll be seeing me tomorrow with the second story in the collection, which is let me just make sure, The Property of a Lady. So with that, I will see you tomorrow. Bye.